Hello to all. Welcome to the last webinar offered to you by Division G, District 59. My name is Andreas Haisopokleos and I am the webinar chair. And today we have with us a very special guest, Toastmaster Iris, who will tell us a bit more about pitching. So today we will learn how to develop our pitching superpowers. And a brief description of the webinar. What if you had the superpower of transforming your thoughts and words into reality? How great would that be? How easy your life would be? And how much more could you achieve? In this webinar, you will learn how you can develop pitching superpowers that will inspire others to follow your vision, turning what today seems unreal into the reality of tomorrow. Toastmaster Iris will share with us some of the techniques used to motivate, inspire, and win credibility to turn projects that seem unrealistic into great successes. Toastmaster Iris is a Toastmaster since 2013, and before Toastmasters he was afraid of speaking to an audience. But 2 years later he was the MC for an audience of 650 people. Later Iris discovered the Toastmasters leadership program and took the roles of area director and division director. And during his term, he contributed to create several Toastmasters clubs. Iris co-founded the Impact Toastmasters Geneva, a club situated in the Impact Hub co-working space where he leads several teaching workshops for young entrepreneurs as a volunteer. Professionally, Iris works for Oracle, and lately he kept himself busy with evangelizing blockchain with the goal of empowering people to access more resources with less barriers. In his new role, he uses the skills that he acquired in Toastmasters to lead the big initiative at Oracle in EMEA region and also organize a blockchain hackathon in Geneva. In his spare time, he's passionate about sports and he deeply enjoys participating in long-distance races, such as the Ironman 70.3. So please join me in welcoming Toastmaster Iris. Iris, the camera is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the very nice introduction. That was great. I'm really happy to be here with you tonight. And as Andreas has said, what if you had some superpowers, like the superpower of transforming your thoughts and your words into reality? That would make things really easy for you, wouldn't it? So how much more could we really achieve if we could just do this and make things happen? It's not that simple, but almost. And the good news is that I will give you some tips how you can learn how to do this. I'll show you how. So there's a difference between different types of goals. Sometimes personal goals. And these goals are goals like doing a marathon, or doing a triathlon, or learning a new language, or even losing 5 kilos. And these goals we can do most alone. Achieve these goals with good planning, with perseverance, by dedicating time, enough time to them. The other goals, which are more complex, because to achieve these goals, we depend on other people. So for example, if you want to start a company, or if you want to convince your colleagues at work to pursue a certain project, or if you want to create a Toastmasters club, or even if you want that people vote for you to lead an organization, then you need more than just good planning and perseverance to achieve these goals. You really need to be able to persuade and convince other people to work with you and to do things for you. So imagine you have this stone in front of you. There is 2 ways you could push it. You could try to go to the gym for several years to become like Schwarzenegger and then push it, or you could just ask 10 people that are going by and who you can ask to push it for you, and then you're done. So if you have the ability to create some good arguments and to deliver them in a way that moves people, you have the ability to move the minds of others. And this, I believe that it's one of the greatest assets that you can ever have in life. And that's why I say it's more than a skill, it's really a superpower. So imagine this stone. This stone might weigh 500 kilos. But if you convince 10 people or 20 people to push it for you, you're done. You don't even have to move a finger. So if you follow this approach, things that seemed very hard, they become easy. And this is something that you can practice every day. If you have the approach of always consider convincing other people to do things for you or things with you, you will be improving fast. And yes, you can use these skills every single day. You can try, for example, to do simple things like convincing your partner to go for dinner or to watch a movie together, or so you can suggest the movie and give your partner some really good arguments why you should watch that movie. Or you can ask people to give a donation to a local nonprofit and so on. But it can also be very big things like completely redesigning your organization. And in all of these situations, you can use and practice the same skills. And also, if there is a personal goal that you can turn into an interpersonal goal by involving others, and you can pitch it and empower someone to do it for you, you achieve your goal without even having to do anything. And then you can move to the next goal. Of course, this doesn't apply in every situation. If you want to lose 5 kilos and you pitch it to somebody else, and then this other person loses the 5 kilos, okay, that doesn't count. But if your goal is to have a fence around the garden to protect the children in your neighborhood, maybe you don't have to do anything. The only thing you need to do is to tell your neighbors that someone should do something about it, and then someone else will do it for you. So these are the differences between personal goals and interpersonal goals. So today, I will share with you some of the techniques that I've discovered and that I have explored in the last years, and which I use to persuade and inspire others to do things for me or to do things with me. And this is pitching. Pitching can be pitching a vision of the future, pitching an idea, pitching a goal, pitching a project, pitching how amazing the road will be without that big stone in the middle of it. Life goes around pitching. I would say life is a pitch. And today I will share with you some of what I call the superpowers. Number 1, turning words into reality. Number 2, seeing the future. And number 3, influencing minds. So what we want to do with pitching really comes down to one thing. It's persuading others. And persuasion is a deliberate attempt to affect the beliefs of the audience. And that can be done through communication. So persuasion has the audience in mind, first of all, and the goal is to convince and to move their minds into a certain direction in terms of behaviors, beliefs, attitudes, and so on. And I see there's some messages. I think everything goes okay. There's something going on the chat. Okay, that's all fine. But of course, people have free will. So we actually don't really persuade people. We help people to persuade themselves. And that's what we do with pitching and persuasion. And persuasion is also not the same as forcing, or it's not the same as manipulation. It's not the same as lying. For example, if a person is selling a car and is saying that this car has always been serviced when it actually didn't happen, that's not being persuasive. That's just being dishonest. So it's good to know exactly what we are talking about when we are talking about persuasion. So in our case today, we are focusing on persuasion through speaking, not other types of persuasion. And about persuasion through speaking, the ancient rhetorician Georgius, he has said that speech is a powerful lord that with the smallest and most invisible body accomplishes most godlike works. Some speeches cause pain, some pleasure, some fear, and some instill courage. Some drug and bewitch the soul in a kind of evil persuasion. So it all requires good planning and preparation. Planning is the most important thing about a good pitch and about persuasion. So you can plan and prepare and rehearse in advance. And to do this, there's four important things that we're going to be looking at today. Number one is how to define and how to adapt to the target. Number two is find what is authentic about your message and use that. The third is how to create a compelling story. And then the fourth part is how to be your best self when you are on stage. So the target, authenticity, story, and be your best self on stage. So the first point, it's target. It's very important to define who is the target, who is the audience. This is really crucial because your target can be the whole audience. You can be speaking to a huge audience and your target is everyone in that audience. But it can also be different. It can be that within that audience of 100 people or even bigger, there is one single person, which is the person that takes a decision. So you can strategize in a different way. You can do a pitch to a huge audience, but strategize in a way that you really want to persuade one single person or a small group of persons within that audience. And you need to know exactly who is your target and what you want to achieve with your pitch. And once you identify your target and what you want to achieve, you can understand also your target. You need to study the target. What are the interests of this target? What does motivate them? What are they looking for? So once you understand who you are really pitching to, which is not the same as pitching to the whole audience, but who are you really pitching to? And once you know everything you can know about this group of persons or this one person, then you're way ahead than before. So imagine that you're pitching in an event. Ask yourself the questions. Who am I pitching to? Am I pitching to private investors? Am I pitching to managers in corporations? Or am I pitching for people who work for non-profit organizations? What is my audience? What is my target looking for? Once you answer these questions, once you understand this, you can cater your pitch exactly to fulfill the expectations of the audience. So it's very important to define your target. Here you have 4 examples of different types of audiences. And you see, depending on who they are, their motivations are different. They can be private investors who are certainly interested in seeing their investment turning profitable. They can work for a non-profit organization or for the local government. And in that case, they are probably more interested in the positive social impacts of your project, of your idea, or they might be working for a large corporation. And even if they are working for a large corporation, they can have different motivations. They might be interested to invest in your business, or they might be interested to become a customer of your business, or even to acquire your company later on. So let me give you an example. Once I was coaching an entrepreneur, and his idea was to build a small device that can test the quality of the milk. Once you take it from the cow, it can test the quality. So when the farmers take the milk from a sick cow and the milk doesn't respect the quality standards, they don't need to mix it with healthy milk because that would cause the loss of all the milk. His pitch was interesting, and in fact, he already had won a prize with his pitch before. He pitched it at another event where the people who he was pitching to were really interested in numbers. So he focused on numbers because that was also the advice that he was given to. How many liters of milk are lost every year due to this problem? How much money could the farmers save and how much money could the company make? So this was really a great pitch for a great idea. And now he was using the same idea for another program. It was a program called the Social Impact Awards Program, which focuses on the social aspects of innovation. So the audience was very different from the first audience. And what I suggested to him was to adapt his pitch to this audience. And instead of focusing on the numbers, on the profitability, and so on, I suggested to him to tell stories about farmers and how their lives could be improved by using this device. And he did that, and he actually has won that award. He won the Social Impact Award prize that year. In that same event, there was also a lady with a kind of similar idea. She wanted to create a device that can purify water using very cheap materials. She was trying to solve an issue in Vietnam because kids go far away to take water, and often the water is polluted, and sometimes they even fall in the river and then they drown, which is very tragic. Now, trying to take this and applying it in a way that really relates to the audience, we have to think about that this event was happening in Geneva. Well, in Geneva, there is a lake, a big lake. So what I recommended her to do was to start with a question to the audience. Instead of starting telling about the problem in Vietnam, start by asking a question to the audience. And that would be a question like this: how would you feel if your child had to go to the lake, and she can point at the lake because the lake is just there. How would you feel if your child had to go every day to the lake to take water? And so by doing that, it automatically creates connection to the audience, as opposed to start on how many children suffer from this problem in Vietnam. Because after all, Vietnam is far away. But by creating a connection with the audience in terms that relate to them, they will be much more moved, and you will be much more impactful. So maybe you have a mixed audience, and in that audience you have one decision maker, or you're just looking for one investor. You can take the decision of making your pitch specifically interesting for that one single person in the room, even if there are many others. This is strategy. That is one possible strategy. You can think about what is the strategy that you can pursue, and based on that, design your pitch. So keep in mind that planning is important, and you need, first of all, to identify what is your objective, what is your goal, and you need to identify who is the target of your pitch. So now I'd like to ask you all to share a story on how getting to know your target in advance helped you to pitch an idea. And I'll give you a minute to think about it. So I'd like to have a volunteer to share a story on how getting to know your target in advance helped you to pitch your idea. Are we having a volunteer?
Okay.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
So tell us your story.
At the moment, I'm trying to do some sponsoring for organizing a TEDx, and we need to finance and auto-finance the project. So it's a very complicated exercise to detect in your in the person you're approaching the exact position of that person and what is going to be the main influencing element for going quick, attracting the attention of the person you're facing and getting a result, getting some money. So I think it always helps to know the position of the person, to meet face to face. I found it more concrete rather than phoning up, because you can detect a lot of things in the body language of the person you're facing. But it's very much to gain efficiency. What I found out is just like a Toastmaster, very much practicing and practicing, that you get quicker and more efficient.
Sorry for the music. I don't know what's happening with my computer. I opened the wrong file.
No worry.
It's kind of amusing though. There is a music in this PowerPoint, and I don't know how to switch it off.
I can hear you fine. You can carry on talking.
Yeah, I need to stop this music. Andreas, help!
Maybe we can mute you.
No, you cannot mute me.
I think, yeah, it's something with your PowerPoint. Now it's better.
Yeah, but now I have no PowerPoint. I'm going crazy with this.
Oh, yeah, we can hear you. So if you want to continue talking, and we can have the background music.
I don't want the background music. Try again. Okay, good. Sorry for this. Would you like to continue and develop a little bit on your idea?
Basically, I am very interested in all what you're saying, because this is very much a kind of methodology and ideas that are synthetic and help us to set up the decor and to be better equipped when we want to pitch to obtain a quick and efficient result. So that's what I understand about pitching: is you got to be fast, you got to be impactful, and you got to be efficient and get the objective you're aiming for.
Yeah, exactly. Those are very important points. And as you mentioned, it's very important to get to know these persons you want to pitch to. There's different ways you can think about who is coming, who is the audience. If you know, so for example, in this example that I gave you, Social Impact Awards. This event ran on the Impact Hub. The Social Impact Awards, the name gives it away. It's all about social impact. All the projects were about social impact. So from there, we can already infer more or less the kind of audience. And we also knew that in that specific case, they were going to choose a winner with a project who had the most social impact. So that's how we design the pitch. So we need to know what are the motivations from the other people. So let's explore on your idea. Who are you going to pitch to?
Mainly managers in charge of either communication or sponsoring, or sometimes human resources.
Yeah, and what are they looking for?
Promoting their company, getting more customers out of the sponsoring exercise.
Okay, so exactly. So you can design your pitch in a way that fulfills that needs from them. So you can always say something like it will have great exposure, things like that.
Yeah, I found that quantifying and already preparing the ground and letting the person, inspiring the person or pushing the person to think how much return the company will gain, and under which format.
Yeah.
Making things very concrete, it helps, especially when you got only a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Recently, I organized a hackathon, and I went through a similar kind of situation. I needed to raise quite a lot of money to sponsor this event. 5 digits. We're talking about 5 digits that I had to what I told to the senior management was all about company branding. All about company branding, being seen as an innovator, things that we are interested in, and that worked. So I think it will really help you to try to understand what are the motivations and try to address those. But we will go more into the other topics that you mentioned. But I think the first and most important thing is to define the target and to be adapted to the audience. One example I have for you as well. Recently, I pitched the idea to a group of salespeople in my company to use blockchain as a conversation starter. But the thing is that these people, they don't actually sell blockchain solutions. Another sales team does. So what is their motivation? Why would they do that? Well, the thing is that I focused on what they are interested about, which is selling other systems. So my pitch was around how speaking about blockchain to their customers could be used to get into a conversation with a customer, to get them interested, and then upsell on the other products from their product line. And that seemed to get their interest. So you really need to understand the motivation from the others to pitch effectively. Okay, do we have another volunteer to share a small story on how getting to know your target in advance helped you to pitch? If not, I will continue with the next topic. So after defining the target, the next thing which is very important is authenticity. I believe that dreams can become reality when we share our visions with others, but these visions need to be authentic. It really needs to be true. It needs to be authentic. And to have this authenticity, we want to clearly visualize what will happen as the result of what we are proposing. So once we can see it very clearly, this comes back to planning again. Once we can see it very clearly, then we can describe it to other people, and then they can see it as well. So in a way, you can act as if you already seen the future and you're just talking about it. So I'd like to ask you if you can tell us a few examples of people who are incredible at sharing their visions with a high degree of authenticity. Can you think about a few people who do that incredibly well? Give me a couple of names. I think everyone is on mute. If you want to speak, unmute yourself.
Some people wrote in the comments, Martin Luther King, Elon Musk, Barack Obama, Steve Jobs.
Right, those are all great names. And from those that you chose, they're all good. And I chose one in particular. I chose Elon Musk. So for me, this guy is the ultimate master pitcher. He's not a great public speaker, but he is a great pitcher. He always pitches ideas of a world of clean and unlimited energy, prosperity, space exploration. And the reason why this works so well is because he deeply believes in it. And as the result, everyone else believes in it as well. And this is a characteristic of people who are extremely successful at pitching their ideas and getting support. They deeply believe in it, and as the result of that, everyone believes it in it as well. So Elon Musk, he shows a lot of passion, he shows really big visions, and there's always something more important than just money or material advantages. His ideas are always about creating something great, something extraordinary, and create a life for everyone on this planet, which is not just a little bit better, it's not incremental, but it's something amazing. It's always about fulfilling the human destiny of expanding life beyond our own planet and so on. So his approach is very bold, and he takes huge risks. But think about it, it works. I think we could discuss this, and he's probably would be agreeing that he's one of the most popular persons on this planet, and he has the support of everyone. Investors support him, customers support him, employees support him, and people who are not customers, they want to become customers, and they advocate for the projects and for his companies. So everyone wants him to succeed. Everyone is following him into the unknown, and that this is because he has this authenticity and this belief, this passion. So you might have you might have seen this movie. Maybe you want to write in the comments who has seen this movie. I see a yes. It's a great movie. It's called Allied, with Marion Cotillard and Brad Pitt. In this movie, they are both spies, and there's one scene when he asks her, they seem to like you, and she answers, and I like them. I keep the emotion real. That's why it works. And I think it's really interesting that she says that, because things work because she was really authentic, the way she kept her emotions. So the conclusion is to be credible about your message. Everything you say should be authentic. So you have to choose carefully from all the things that you feel and you think. Find those things which are authentic, which will engage the audience, and use those. Because without authenticity, the audience will lose the trust. Instead of losing trust, use authenticity to win the trust. Win credibility by being real. So there's many things to do on how to stay authentic, but there's a few tips. First of all, as I mentioned, find those authentic beliefs, those authentic feelings, those authentic ideas that you really believe in, and use those. Also, avoid memorizing word by word what you're going to say. Instead, just have a conversation with the audience. You can choose your message carefully in a way that you always stay true to what you believe. And also get personal, because that creates empathy. Even when we're representing a product, an idea, a company, we are always persons first. And other people also relate to that, because they're also persons first, no matter which company they are working on or which project they are working for. So always be a person first, always be authentic, stay true to what you believe, and get personal. So when you get personal, when you are authentic, when you show enthusiasm, and when you stay true to what you believe, people will respond to this authenticity also with enthusiasm, and they will believe you. So I'd like to ask again for a volunteer to share a story on how being authentic was convincing and helped you to pitch an idea. I think you have to unmute yourself in order to speak. Yes, Andreas is writing. Now it's your time to shine. It is. Don't be shy. Share an idea, story with us. No, I will let you think a little bit about it. Until then, I'll share one then. So a year and a half ago, we created a new Toastmasters club in Geneva, and we charted it pretty fast. After 3 meetings, we already had about 20 members. And I believe that the reason why it was so fast is that we always really believed it. We always believed it was going to be charted very quickly and that it would be a great club. So when people came to the club meeting as guests, they also believed in it. They also knew that the club was going to be great, and they didn't have any doubt, and they didn't hesitate to register. I've seen many other clubs trying to be charted and not having that same success. And one of the reasons that I have observed by being there and seeing how it happened and seeing the reactions of the people is that sometimes there is a lack of self-confidence. So sometimes the persons who are creating the club, they're not really sure if the club is really going to be charted. They don't know if they will be able to get the 20 members. And when they feel that, I can see it, and the audience can see it. It becomes obvious. When the sponsors of the club say something like, "We are trying to have 20 members. Unfortunately, we didn't get there yet." That's it. That's automatically the audience, even if they don't realize it at the conscious level, they will exactly understand this lack of self-confidence, and they will have doubt. And if they have a doubt, then they're not going to become members. So I've seen this happening again and again. It's very important to really believe in what we are saying and to be authentic. So maybe now you had a little bit more time to think. Maybe you want to share a story about how you used authenticity to be convincing. No stories? I think everyone is on mute.
Hello, Iris.
Hi.
Can you hear me? I'm
do.
Julia. Ciao. A
Ciao.
short story. I think it's something that could be useful. For me, was quite something natural because many of you know that now I am a mind mapping trainer, and I started using the tool for my speeches, for my Toastmaster speeches. And after that, everyone was asking me to teach them to use it. And so I think that the first authenticity you can use is to prove that you really know what you are going to teach. It's just a simple idea, but I think it's really important because you are aligned and what you say and what you do, and this is really important.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Recently, I've been to many pitches where they pitch blockchain projects, and many times they don't know what they are talking about. So and the people who know a little bit more and they are knowledgeable, they see that these people are not actually understanding the domain that they are pitching, and they actually don't understand the technology that they are talking about, that they are pitching about, and that comes across. So you're absolutely right. If you're talking about a topic, you should understand it in order to be credible, like you mentioned in your case. Yeah. Someone else would like to share another story about authenticity?
Panos has a story. Panos, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, I just did. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
So about a a year and a half when I was still president at Zurich Toastmasters. There was a member that so a year and a half after I was president at Zurich Toastmasters, there was a member that came to me. I came to a meeting, and she said that she had been a guest once about a year and a half ago when I was president. And I remembered her actually. Her name is Ramya. She's from the UK. And she told me that the way I opened the meeting and my energy was just something that stayed with her. And although she was overseas for training and for work basically, then she had made the plan for herself to come back to Zurich Toastmasters once she was back in Zurich, and she did. But that was a year and a half after. And I can't say that I had a methodology in the way I was doing things as president, but I can tell you that when I ended my term there, the club agreed that I was one of the best cheerleaders they've ever had.
Great.
And this is because I enjoyed doing it every single time.
Yeah.
Perhaps other things that I wouldn't believe in, and that's when the authenticity comes in.
Yeah.
Would have been a bigger challenge to support with the strength of my character.
Yeah.
But Toastmasters, particularly in my home club, that just came out naturally.
Yeah.
And I believe this particular incident tells us that the take-home message is that this energy was authentic because I believed in it.
Yeah, very good. It's a very good example. It's a very good example. Exactly. You showed passion. You really enjoy it, and people buy it. They just believe in you because you really show that interest and that motivation and that authenticity. So that works very well. And it's really simple.
Are you gonna go tonight?
Thank you for your story. That was really good example. I'll move on, if that's okay with you. The next point is stories. The story is everything when we are pitching. So it's our job to tell good stories. People want to hear stories. They crave for stories. So when we give people good stories, they will hear them, and then they will go and they will talk about it. When they go for lunch with their colleagues or they go and have beers with their friends, they will remember the stories and they will talk about it. People will often forget what we pitch, but they will remember the stories. We often hear in Toastmasters that stories make the message more memorable. It is really so. Stories make the message more memorable. So make sure that you have a good story to tell. So the most important aspect of storytelling is to create conflict. And there's different ways to write stories, of course, but this element of storytelling, which is to create a conflict, always works. So it always starts by creating some sort of chaos. And after creating this chaos, with the development of your story, things go back into order. So if you think about ancient mythology, they always share this characteristic. It always begins with some sort of chaos. And those are the stories that were told over and over again over thousands of years. And that's why these stories survived until today. The boring stories, we haven't heard them because they were just forgotten. So this creation of the conflict is something very powerful. Conflict and resolution. It's very powerful and it always works. So I will show you a little bit on how you can apply the conflict into a simple structure, conflict and resolution. So if you have enough time, you can start by setting an overall atmosphere. This is the mood. You can start by setting a mood. This sets the stage and helps the audience to get into a state which is called suspension of belief. So, for example, in science fiction movies, they usually don't start with dialogue or with a meeting or something like that. They usually start with a spaceship flying. And when you see a spaceship flying, you're ready to accept that spaceships are in space and they are flying. So the audience gets into the state of suspension of belief, and then the story starts. And then they go into the meeting room and other things happen which really build the plot. But that happens after setting the mood, after this suspension of belief. And then the plot directly goes or leads to the conflict. So this is something, the conflict is something that is against the normal order of things. Something different, something unexpected, something that captures people's attention. Conflict arises from causing some kind of unbalance in an ordered state. Conflict creates tension, and conflict keeps people engaged. So some examples on how to create conflict in a short pitch. Number one, farmers in Africa who lose their crops because they cannot have access to accurate weather forecasts. Another example, going back to the water purifying system that I mentioned earlier, let's add this. How would you feel if your child would have to walk 2 hours every day to pick water? So that's a conflict, because people feel that it's not right that children walk 2 hours every day to pick water. So when you ask that to the audience, that's a question with a conflict. Or if we go into a more corporate kind of scenario, you can say, every employee of our company spends 1/4 of their time doing work that doesn't bring value to the company. And most of that time is wasted organizing and looking for emails. So that's another way to create conflict. So you have three different examples on how you can easily, in a few words, create this state of conflict. And you don't need to go through creating the mood first. You can also directly jump into the conflict with the story or with a question. Then the intensity of the story increases. So find your structure structure the sequence in a way that the intensity is increasing, and then you have the climax, which is the most intense part of the story. It doesn't have to be a long story. If we go back to the example of the child that walks 2 hours every day, you can do it like this. How would you feel if your child would have to walk 2 hours every day to pick water? And then you continue. Today in Vietnam, thousands of children have to walk hours to reach water. Often the water is polluted and causes diseases. Often children fall into the river and die. So here I started with a conflict, which is 2 hours. Then I increased the intensity by saying that the water is polluted and causes diseases. And then the climax comes when I say that children often fall into the river and die. So that is the climax. And then after that, so that's the most powerful moment of the story. After that, there's a lot of tension. So you need to resolve that tension. The resolution of the tension will be through what you are pitching. So in the case of the children who have to walk 2 hours, the resolution comes with this device that they were building. They were building a device to clean water. So that offers the resolution, and then this tension is released, and in a way there's a happy ending. So usually in the end, when using this kind of structure, with the development of the story, the chaos comes back into order. The good guys win, the farmers save their crops with some technology, the employees are going to be more productive with the project that you propose, and children get clean water at home, and so on. Projects are successful, you arrive to your destination, everyone is happy. And so with this example, the water example again, you can end with this device. We can easily purify water, which is available in closed sources, so that children don't need to take risks and don't need to walk far away. So again, I'd like to ask for a volunteer to share a small story where you created conflict and resolution. You can also add mood, or you can also add a climax, but that's optional. Focus on the conflict and the resolution. So do we have a volunteer? I'll give you 1 more minute to think. I'll go ahead with the complete story, a small one. Maria, she's a Filipino immigrant who works works hard in a cafe in London. She does this to send money to her mom. So this is setting the mood. The costs of sending money overseas can be above 10%. So she has to work extra hours, and she doesn't have enough money nor time to study. Now with Bitcoin, she can do transfers to her mom for less than 1%. And now she has time and has enough money to join evening classes, and she's learning how to be a hotel manager. So this is a small, complete story. It starts with the mood, it poses creates the conflict, it has a climax, and then it offers a resolution. So if someone would like to share a very brief story, maximum 1 minute. Otherwise, we'll go ahead.
Yes.
We're also running out of time. Yeah. Someone is saying something?
I have a quick one.
Yeah.
Patricia.
Hi, Patricia.
Huh. Yeah, I was very ashamed of my accent. I've got a strong French accent when I speak English, a strong Spanish accent when I speak Italian, a strong Italian accent when I speak French. So I was quite ashamed with my accents, in particular in English. So I joined Toastmasters, and I solved my problem, because everybody has an accent wherever you come from. Texas or New York, Switzerland or France, we all have one. So that was my conflict and my resolution.
Great, thank you for sharing. Yeah. So you have a happy ending in the end, but you could even have a happier ending, like how your accent even helped you in to have a more exotic. You could use it. I think about Schwarzenegger. Everyone told him that he couldn't be an actor with that crazy accent, but eventually it became his trademark. So I think accents can be powerful. In fact, they can be a trademark. So I will continue. The last thing is it's all about you. You are the connection to your pitch. To give a great impression about your pitch, you should also give a great impression about yourself, because people will relate your pitch to you. So today I will just share 2 very simple tips. And there's many things you can do. You can keep on working your public speaking skills in Toastmasters, and everything will be valuable. But today I will share with you two top tips. Question for you: in which Michelle Obama would you vote for? To which of these ladies would you vote for? I want some answers. It can be on the chat. The right, yeah, the right. Yeah, everyone is telling the one on the right. The pink one, the one on the right.
Eris, I think she's beautiful on both, but obviously having open arms is definitely a lot more engaging, because she's like welcoming people, and she's opening her heart. So exactly. Yeah, it's a very open and welcoming posture. As the first one on the left side is a lot more about thinking and reflecting on one idea or something.
Exactly, you straight to the point. Yeah, and this is something I've seen again and again People go on stage to do their pitches, and they sometimes don't do exactly this, but they do something similar. They hold the hands, or they hold the cuff. They do something, or they hold half of their arm. They do something that can be interpreted as lack of self-confidence. So you were straight to the point. That was very good. Yeah. So yeah, keep an open and sincere body language. Show your palms to the audience, and keep an open posture that shows this openness and credibility. And the second is smiling. This lady, her name is Vanessa Van Edwards, and you can see that she advises people to smile, and she's a great smiler herself. Here she has a huge smile. She's a researcher on human interaction, and she analyzed hundreds of TED Talks with many volunteers, and her team has discovered that people who smile a lot more, they are perceived as smarter and more credible. So this is something you really want to do. You really want to remember to smile, to be perceived as smarter and more credible. It's a really simple advice, but it works wonders. Someone would like to say something? Add something to this? So I'll just go on then. So to recap, if you want to have a pitch which really stays, which people remember, number one is the story. Use stories, use that structure of conflict and resolution to be memorable. Number two is your target audience. Know them, adapt your pitch, understand their motivations, and really make it for them. The third is being authentic. Use things that you really believe in, and people will believe you as well. Be authentic. And the fourth is you. You are the connection to the pitch. Keep an open posture and a great smile. You can remember this easily. Stay, stories that stay, story, target, authenticity, and you. And when you do this, your ideas will stick around, and they will stay in the minds of people for a long time. And after you do this and you persuade people, ask yourself, what happens after? I will finish just in a couple of minutes. Remember the story of the shepherd and the wolf. He told a couple of times that a wolf was coming, and everyone came to kill the wolf, and then there was no wolf. So nobody believed him afterwards. And when the wolf came, nobody helped. So when you pitch to convince people, you want to be sure that afterwards you live up to your expectations, because you don't want to lose credibility. Instead, you want to win credibility. It's extremely important to live up to your expectations. Keep that in mind, which comes to what I call the circle of success. It's 3 C's: courage, commitment, and credibility. Courage, have the courage to think big, think really big, not just a little more than what was done before. Be brave, set a big target, and aim for the moon. But then you need to have the commitment. You need to have the commitment to make it happen. No matter how much effort you need to put into it, you need to make it happen to win or to lose credibility. And then when you succeed, when you win credibility, everyone wants to follow people who are credible. Everyone wants to be led by people who know what they are doing and who are credible. So I think credibility is really the currency of success, and it's the currency of leadership. It becomes a circle that is complete. Once you win credibility, then you can again have the courage to dream bigger, to plan bigger, and begin a new cycle. And this is exactly what Elon Musk does. He uses his huge credibility to propose more and more ambitious goals. So now that you know how you can develop several superpowers, with these powers you can convince people to do whatever you like them to do. So use it wisely, use it in an ethical way, use it to make the world a better place, and to make your life easier as well. Remember the words of Spider-Man, which go like this: with great power comes great responsibility. And if you want, I can answer a few questions. No questions? I know we ran out of time a little bit, by a couple of minutes.
Thank you so much, Iris. I think it's time to conclude our meeting. And I would like to thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you for helping us to develop our pitching superpowers. And at this point, I would like to mention that this is the last of a series of webinars offered to you by Division G. And I would like to thank our Division Director, Metaxia, our Program Quality Director, Fabio, and our PR Director, Julia, for supporting me with the selection and promotion of the webinars and for helping with everything. And also Iris, who was our special guest for our last webinar. It was a very special webinar and very important because it really shows how important is the art of persuasion and pitching. And I really liked your quote, which says, "We don't persuade people, people persuade themselves." That's very deep. And I would like to thank you for that, Iris. And I would like to thank all of you for participating and contributing to our webinars. Back to you, Iris, and you would like to say goodbye and add something?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It was great to be here. See you soon in a different place.
Yeah. Have a nice summer vacation and holidays. And see you soon to all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, grazie. Thank you, Iris. Thank you all.